This is Wigan and Lee College Foundation Degree in Performance and Education Year 2. This is the Experiencing the Workplace module. This is the mock interviews component. Today I'm talking to Heather Sharp, and this interview today is regarding the role of workshop leader at Wigan and Lee College to support the delivery of the Level 2 and the Level 3 Performing Arts programmes. Okay, Heather, my first question is, what's your thoughts in terms of what you feel the role of a workshop leader is? What would you see yourself doing in that role?
I think as a workshop leader you have to be really energetic, and you have to be quite empathetic as well, because there might be some things that come up in the workshops that's quite tense or quite emotional or quite kind of like a bit like wow. So I think if you're doing something that causes somebody distress, I think you have to kind of you yourself step out of it and say to them, look, if you want to step out, step out. But I also think you have to make it as fun as possible, and make it so that it's enjoyable and kind of just really like get in that everybody's got good energy and that everybody's like taking it seriously but not too seriously, like you can still have fun with it and that. That's
a key thing for you about making it fun. Almost like creative play. For them to kind of explore ideas. So what would a typical session involve, do you think? A series of games, then some exercises and showing back work? How would you kind of structure it?
It depends on what the topic was. If it was something where we was doing things like Maslow's theories, I would do it more like a seminar workshop or me talking workshop. But then I might do one week after where it was a bit more energetic and a bit more activity focused, where if they wanted to perform monologue, or I might say, okay, well, here's what, when we was talking about Maslow, this is what we used, and this is what he said. Now if you can find a piece that matches that, or if you want to write your own piece, you can do that, and see if I could get them to work in theories into the project or into the work they was doing.
Great. Now, as well as having fun, keeping safe is really important, isn't it? And we have a kind of diverse collection of students, each with individual needs, and safety is very important, obviously. So what kind of key things do you feel are important for keeping people safe? For example, let's say a person had epilepsy, for example, as well as other needs, obviously. What would you do to ensure that they're kept safe?
I think in that situation, I would talk to the person, or I would ask the whole group. I would say, ask them, is there anybody with any conditions, like epilepsy, where flashing lights could bring on a seizure, or if somebody had was autistic, or they had a sensory issue where lights and sounds can cause discomfort, or can cause them to kind of like panic or go into a meltdown, then I'll say, well, I'm going to be doing this on this day. If you want to go work in another room, if you've got some other work you can do, feel free to do that, and work around it that way, and then I'd bring them back in, and I wouldn't actually put things back on, but if they've been working with a group, I'd ask the group to explain what had happened, and that, and also I'll still include because one thing I wouldn't want to do is, like, because they had a condition, like I was excluding them, I would say, okay, well, we've just done this, where I had flashing lights, and how would that affect you if as long as they felt comfortable talking about it.
Yes.
I said, like, how would that experience affect you, and how would it make you feel? What would happen to you?
Yes.
Because then it gives the other people in the group an insight into that experience that person is having.
There's so much really important things in what you've just mentioned. Everything from the group gaining an understanding of each other's needs, which essentially, do you think that makes a group stronger in terms of that awareness?
It does, yeah, because I think in college everyone's kind of like that age where they're a bit more understanding, like we understand that a person with autism might kind of not like loud noises or like flashing lights, or a person with epilepsy, but flashing lights can cause them to have a fit or an attack.
Yes.
Even like somebody with Tourette's as well.
Yeah.
The flashing lights might actually trigger them. And then like you've got so many different conditions, like you said, there's so many diverse groups here. Like we have people with autism, we have people with epilepsy. I don't know if we do, but we could have people with DID.
Mm-hmm.
And even like in that case, you could have people with like what we call the alters. They themselves might not be triggered by, but the alter might, and that bring that alter to come out, and then like we don't know how that person's going to react.
Yeah.
So I think by knowing, and the group knowing, they're going to look out for the safety for a friend.
Yes.
And we're going to look out for the safety of everybody else as well, because we don't want somebody falling and banging their head and
Yes.
being in more distress than what they need.
Or even if they're just feeling, excluded, and they sit out, and obviously it has an emotional and psychological impact.
Yeah.
There's another two key factors that you mentioned as well, which is about how your inclusivity is so important to you.
Yeah.
That you're very aware that each person is an individual and requires an individual approach. However, you're very inclusive with that, in that you would presumably design a session in such a way that allowed everyone to take part, but also gave people the opportunity that if someone needed a few moments, you would be quite willing to allow them to do that within.
Yeah. I think because that's something that I wish I'd had myself in the past. It's something that I'm very conscious of as well.
Yes.
But it's kind of like, well, because I didn't actually have that that option, maybe I can be the person to give the other person that option.
That brings me nicely onto the next question, which was all to do with any experiences that you have had that has made you want to run workshops to raise awareness. And you've also kind of answered a little bit of that in some way by saying prior experience has informed you of how to actually run a workshop in terms of accommodating people's needs.
Yeah.
So, what experiences have you had that's led you want to run workshops about awareness, for example?
I think this, when I've been in situations where, because it's not pretty obvious I'm autistic, there's been people who, when I've been doing projects, they've kind of not taken into account that, and it's kind of like if I've been doing something and something's kind of like just changed ever so slightly, and my brain's just gone, no, that's changed, that's throwing you, I have to find another way around it. And I think even like if you're a director or working in a theatre, if somebody says, I have this condition, I might have to work another way around, even if they say go a certain way. You have to think like, okay, no, I just can't see a way around that. So I have the option where I can go.
You can see the way around it. Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I've got that way around, like I've got an option B. And I don't think, especially in theatre, it's really understood, like everything has to be and not just theatre, in other work, in other ways of life, it's kind of like
Yes.
you have to, everything's so rigid and non-flexible, and I think that is one of the reasons why I want to do the workshops, is kind of like what's inspired me to do these kind of workshops is to show that there can be a flexibility, and as long as it's not deviating too much from the original way, then it can be like a two-way street, and there should be this flexibility.
And that comes from clever and careful planning, doesn't it, from the outset, to allow that flexibility. So is obviously you do, creative workshops, but you also look specifically about raising awareness of social or mental health issues, don't you? Is that something that's really important to you also?
Yeah, because especially I was actually talking to somebody about this a few weeks back, and he was like saying this, apart from Watch, which is only recently because of COVID, only just starting back up, there's nothing really now in
Watch's Wigan
Autistic
Theatre Company. Yeah.
There's nothing for people with any learning disabilities or anything where people can just go and do things. I know like there's More Than Words, and there's One Vision, and there's a couple of places in Leigh, but there's nothing like as an evening thing to do. And I think, I don't know if that's because of COVID or just the way funding is at the minute, but with that saying, there's nothing where people can go and just do something, and I think that's one of the things where I would like to do is kind of have that thing where people can come, and if we want to do some drama, do a little bit of drama, if you want to write, do a little bit of writing, and that's kind of like be creative. There's nothing creative for people to do.
So you've identified there's a gap in the market there, which might be might be something worth looking into, and maybe looking what the opportunities are, and whether or not you can apply for any funding to assist you with that, and set up and deliver that group for those individuals that want to access it. My last question is about differentiation, which is about how you kind of plan, and it's about adaptability, and it's about essentially delivering the same workshop but with different age groups. So just to kind of give you an example, let's say you've got one creative workshop, and you're running that with 4 to 6 year olds, and you're going to do something very similar, but you're going to do it with 18 upwards. How would you differentiate?
I think with the 4 to 6 year olds, I would do it where it's more kind of like more simplified. Like if let's say I was doing something on emotions, I could ask a 4 year old, 6 year old to pick a card, and if the emotion is happy on that, I can say, okay, I want you to show me a happy emotion. And then I could say, okay, well, I want you to do something very small and say why you're happy. And you can say, oh, it's my birthday and I'm happy because I got a toy I asked for. And then I would have it where somebody would come on and say, oh, why are you happy? And then they would give the same answer. And then, oh, I'm happy because. So something like that. I'll keep it so simple.
Yes.
But even with the adults, you can do something very similar, where you can say, okay, pick a card and that emotion is angry, and they can do something that's kind of like more in-depth and more challenging.
Right.
But it would be more kind of like with the younger people, it would be more like really like simplified, and we're still doing something where we can show it back and we can do something, but with the older ones it'll be more might be a little bit more intense, and it might come in like with the kids. I wouldn't have flashing lights because I know like kids don't always like that. But I could do something similar. I like just like keep it a little bit more simple. But with the adults, it would be more intense, but very similar in structure.
Great, really great ideas and statements. Thank you very much
No problem.
for talking to us this morning, Heather, and good luck.
Thank you.